Thank you, Madam Chair. This is important to me. I've learned a lot about autoimmune diseases over the years, Crohn's and colitis, digestive disorders, asthma, neurological. Why this is so important, because if we find the secret to what causes type 1 diabetes, I think we're going to unravel a host of other diseases and find the cure. That's why I think it's so important you keep doing what you're doing and that we stay on point here. In my own business, I tried to address healthcare and the cost of it, referred to where we shouldn't be rationing medicines that are so important. We shouldn't be grappling with a cost of insurance that's overwhelming. I took on the insurance companies nearly 11 years ago myself, and it was a wrestling match that you wouldn't believe. But there are ways to address it. And what we want to do is keep the best of our healthcare system that gives us technology and breakthroughs, but somehow drive the costs down. And it would take a whole nother time period, but you can do that through being engaged in your own well-being, emphasizing wellness over remediation, finding transparency and getting competition among the providers so that we can keep the best of what we got and not contend with some of the things that, are the worst about our current system. The other thing would be current budget woes here. This should be something we should never have to consider whether we'd have enough money to fund, along with many other things that, center around disease, disasters, some of the things that we should never be worried about. How do we pay for that? Because to me, it's an important part of what the federal government should do. We're in the context of running trillion-dollar deficits here. And one thing, as a Main Street entrepreneur, I hope to weigh in on how we get this place in better health so that we can always be there for good causes like this. The question I want to drill in on when it comes to the particular disease of type 1 diabetes, what I've learned is there's generally a genetic predisposition to almost all of these autoimmune diseases and an environmental trigger that might be part of it. Can you explain to us, and I like the fact that you're getting down to single cell analysis, it seems like that might get us on the right trail. When it comes to type 1 diabetes, is it more of a genetic predisposition or an environmental trigger or that mysterious combination of both?
That's an excellent question, Senator Braun. Type 1 diabetes is a disease that's largely genetic. In fact, type 1 diabetes, we know more about the genetics of type 1 diabetes. 90% of the attributable genetic risk is already known for type 1 diabetes. First-degree relatives of people with type 1 diabetes has about a 15-fold increased risk of developing the disease, and that's why we screen their relatives of people with type 1 diabetes in order to put them in these prevention trials once they develop it. Now, you're right. Just because you have the genes and that genetic risk doesn't mean that you're going to absolutely develop the disease. There's something in the environment that triggers that risk and makes that risk a reality. And that's the reason that we have an ongoing study called TEDDY. In government, everything is an acronym. TEDDY stands for the Environmental Determinants of Diabetes of the Youth. And in this study, we had to screen about 425,000 individuals in order to get 6,000 individuals who are going to be following from birth through the age of 15. That's going to end in 2025. And in them, we're collecting all types of samples, blood samples, urine samples, saliva, stool samples. We're getting medical records on them. We're understanding about outbreaks, within their schools and other environments. And from that, and all these samples that we're collecting, we're doing these studies called omic technology and using big data to analyze what it is in the environment that's actually triggering that. If we knew and it turns out that it's a virus, for example, it's likely that we can make vaccines to prevent people from developing the immune. Or if it's something in the diet, for example, one can suggest dietary restrictions. So I would say that type 1 diabetes is the best example of this combination of genetic risk with environmental factors. And we will understand that by 2025, what those, and it's probably not just one factor, it's probably multiple factors.
Thank you. And I've got to go to an Environment and Public Works Committee meeting where we're talking about roads and bridges. But thank you for the attendance. Since I've been here 6 months, this is the best showing of any committee. It's important to keep up the passion so that we get the message